why don't more people talk about this? I mean, I think the fact that most of you all are here means you're either thinking about, interested in, or you are working on getting either your first or your next dream Hermes bag, whether it is a Birkin, Kelly, or Constance. And there are so many videos out there teaching you either how to get one from the Hermes boutique, which requires a lot of relationship building and a lot of pre-spend. There are ones out there talking about how to score one on one of the better pre-loved sites. And there are ones about how to work with resellers and personal shoppers, which involves, a fair premium, as do pre-loved sites. But for some reason, no one talks about auctions. Now, by going through an auction house, you can get an amazing bag. And when I say amazing, I mean, it could be one of a lot of different categories. You can get one for a killer price, like below retail, which is great considering that a lot of pre-loved bags go for double, sometimes even close to triple the original retail price that you would pay in the Hermes store. So you can find amazing deals. You can also find really highly sought after bags in specs that a lot of us really want, your Birkin 30s in noir or gold, or rose sakura, colors like that. And you can also find a ton of great exotics if you are into exotics, and exotics often sell for below retail. And finally, you can find a ton of special edition, special collection bags that are really rare, really hard to find. So if you're a big baller, there is a market of those for you too. But I feel like when people think of auction houses, people get really intimidating because generally they only think of the super expensive, really fancy Birkins. I feel like we've all heard stories about the most expensive white Himalayan Birkin that sold for $200, $300, $400 something thousand dollars, at Christie's. And so you think okay, those are the types of things that sell at auction houses, not bags for me. But that's not true. So I have been watching auctions, including bags and jewelry at both Christie's and Sotheby's, which are super reputable auction houses, for a couple of years now because I wanted to get more familiar with the process. I wanted to learn about what types of assortment they normally had, how the bidding process works, how the costs are calculated. So that way, once I was ready to pull the trigger, I'm ready to go. And I figured I would go ahead and share what I learned with you all. So that way, in case you're interested, you could start looking at auctions too. So first things first, what I want to do is just take you all through a few examples of bags that sold at the last Christie's auction that I followed with a lot of Hermes bags. Now, whenever they have handbag and jewelry collection lots, they are predominantly Hermes. Don't get me wrong, they do have some other bag brands, so they might have a handful of Chanel or Dior, but for the most part, they're only specialty Chanel and Dior bags, maybe ones with crystals on them, or really hard to get ones, because if you think about it, in order to justify the price of being with an auction house, it's gotta be a bit nicer of a bag. But most of the bags that they have tend to be Hermes because those are the ones that are the real money makers. So first things first, let's go through some of the more highly sought after, popular spec bags, ones that many of you all I think would be interested in, so you can kind of see what they ended up selling for. So first up, we have a beautiful Togo Birkin 30 in blue nuit with gold hardware. This is a really popular bag. A lot of people like, navies and blacks, dark neutral colors. And this bag sold for only 13,750 pounds, which is above the retail price, but it's not double like a lot of these bags tend to be on the pre-loved market. So this is a really good deal. Next up, there is this adorable little mini Constance 18 in black box calf leather with palladium hardware. And this one sold for 10,000 pounds. So again, this one is selling for above retail in the UK, but it's still not double. So this one is still a really good deal. And a lot of people love box calf leather, especially in the black color. So I just love how luxurious this bag is. And then here we have a Birkin 25 in black Togo leather with palladium hardware. Now, this one did go for a bit of a premium, right? This one went for about 15,000 pounds. So I wouldn't call this one a bargain, but this is great because it is a highly sought after bag and hard to get specs. So if you're having trouble finding one of these on the pre-loved market, this just shows you that auctions could be a great place to get it. Next up, I have a couple really great bargain options. So these are ones that I think sold for way below retail. And what's important to keep in mind is that this is just like the preload market. Bags that are in specs that might not be the hottest spec right now tend to go for a little bit less of a premium. So it's a really good time to take advantage of the fact, like, say you are someone that likes a bigger bag or a color that's not as popular with everyone, but if it's a color that you like or a size that you like, you should definitely take this opportunity to bid on it. Because I think the beautiful thing about auctions is that the price isn't set. So as long as the reserve or like the minimum purchase price has been met, you can still get these bags for an incredible deal. Like for instance, look at this Kelly 35, which I know is a bit of a bigger bag, but it's in this beautiful parchment color, which I know that Cray is having such a glow up moment right now. But I mean, it's got a lot of close cousins that don't get nearly as much attention that are very similar, like parchment, like nata, like blanc, like they're all amazing, like off-white colors. This bag sold for 4,750 pounds. This is one of the ones that I was really strongly considering buying as a new work bag. The reason I didn't buy it is because, y'all, I don't think I'm going back into an office again for quite some time. So it didn't really make sense because of the lighter color. I personally wouldn't use this as a travel bag, so this would have only been a work bag for me. And it just didn't make sense given the fact that this is my office now. Now there's another great bag here, which is a Birkin 35 in Togo leather in this gorgeous cobalt color. This bag sold for only 6,000 pounds. Now, I understand that this color blue might not be for everyone, but it is for a lot of you. I've seen this type of color unboxed on a lot of your channels. So if you're interested in a color like this, auctions might be for you. Now, another one that went for just slightly above retail, but it is really highly sought after, is this gorgeous rose tyrene from the Candy collection, Birkin 35. I know so many of you are obsessed with pink. Like a lot of you are trying to get like that rose poop color. I know it's not poop, but I can't make the sound, which is funny because I am Iranian. I should be able to, but anyways, I know that a lot of you are interested in this color, and so this bag sold for 9,375 pounds, so just slightly above retail, but overall still a heck of a lot less than you would pay on the preloved market. Now we're gonna get into some of the specialty collection and exotic bags. Some are ideal, some aren't, but you can just see that like there is a wide breadth of what they have to offer here. So first up, there is this beautiful shiny brown croc Constance 23 with gold hardware, and this bag sold for 10,625 pounds. It is a gorgeous exotic skin. Now I know exotics aren't for everyone, but I know there is a market for it. Now this next bag definitely did not go for a bargain, but this is for like my big ballin' friends, my friends with deep pockets, which some of you really are. There's this gorgeous bright blue Izmir shiny alligator Kelly pochette, and this bag sold for 37,500 pounds. So this one's a little bit outside of my budget. I'm just kidding. It's like my whole budget for like my entire life of handbags. But a really cool option. Now this last bag is one that a lot of you have recently been introduced to because you saw it. If you are a fan of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like don't judge me for loving that show. Crystal Kung Minkov actually had this, and Kyle Richards, who is a huge Birkin collector, even though a bunch of hers were stolen, she like her jaw was on the countertop when she saw this bag just like casually sitting on a countertop. She like couldn't focus, and she admitted it because she was like, Crystal, I can't believe you have this bag. Now this is the Faubourg version of the Birkin 20 in the Cellier style. Now this bag always sells for at least $100,000, and at this auction it sold for 137,500 pounds. Holy, that's a lot of money, but whatever. Those are for you fancy folks, and you fancy folks, you're probably like well into auctions anyway, so I don't need to tell you about it. But for the rest of you all out there who are not as comfortable with auctions, I just want to give you some tips and tricks on how to approach an auction and how to go about going in there with a plan so that you can get the bag that you want at a great price. Now, first things first, you need to find an upcoming handbag auction that you are interested in. So you need to be playing the long game. These auctions do not happen like once every other week. Like they happen, every few months, they're spaced out. But I think you should look at either Christie's or Sotheby's because these are two of the most well-known and highly regarded auction houses. They're super legitimate, and they have their schedules coming up for like almost like the next year already laid out for you, so you can see when there's one coming up. So looking at the Christie's website, you can see that there are 3 different auctions happening in the month of November. So I will definitely be having my eyes on those lots. But once you have selected an auction that you are interested in, you need to create your account, verify all your details, and get your payment information set up so that way when you go to bid, you are ready to go. If you don't have that stuff set up, the last thing you want is to be trying to squeeze in a last minute bid and you don't have all your information set up, then you're not going to be able to bid. So you need to go create your account, verify your banking information, click the confirmation link in the email. You need to make sure you do all of that. If you're not sure if your account is verified, call them and make sure, just so that way you are ready to go ahead of time. Now, a few days before the auction, you need to go to the auction lot itself and look at all of the inventory and fully inspect not just the photos, but also the details of all of the bags. Now, obviously, you need to inspect the photos to get an idea for what type of condition the bags are in. These auction houses are really good at talking about the condition, but it doesn't hurt to also sanity check everything and take a look yourself so that way you know you're only bidding on bags where you're happy with the condition. But you also need to look at each individual's bag's details. So not every bag is coming from the same collection in a lot, right? They are coming from different collections and they each have different rules and regulations with them. So for instance, like how you've seen that some of the upcoming auctions are in countries outside of the US and I am based in the US, I need to go in and make sure that in the details that this bag can be shipped to another country. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. And it's not just to do with exotics. Sometimes it's the private collection is only allowed to be sold within the country of residence. For whatever reason, I'm sure there's tax reasons for it. But you need to make sure that if you buy a bag, that it can actually be sent to you. You also need to take into account if there are going to be additional import fees, duty fees, things like that, and they'll also list that in the details so that way you're able to calculate what the bag is actually going to cost. Then once you've researched all of the bags, you need to take, your top 1, 2, 3 bags that you're interested in, and also make sure you do your research on comparable bags, either selling for retail or selling on the preloved market. So you can do research and understand what these bags could sell for, what they should sell for. So this can help you figure out how much you're willing to spend given your budget and your financial situation. A certain bag may often tend to sell for $30,000 on the preloved market, but if your financial situation is only that of you only have $7,000 to spend, you need to know that. And so that way you're going to have a clear game plan. Now this next item, I cannot stress enough to you. You need to calculate how much you are willing to bid on that bag relative to the total amount of money that you're willing to pay. Now the amount that you bid is not the total amount that you pay. You have to take your bid amount and you need to add tax and a buyer's premium on top of that. Tax is tax, and then buyer's premium it ranges anywhere from 20 to 30%, just depending on what country you're in and how much the item costs. I'll put up a chart that shows you all the details, but research it on whatever auction house you are on for whatever their buyer's premium is. It's generally about 25%, for a lot of us. That buyer's premium, it's basically, think of it as a gratuity that you're paying to the auction house. It's when you go out to eat, your meal costs $100 and you tip the waitress $20. You buy a Birkin for $10,000 and you are going to tip the auction house $2,000. Now it's not a tip. That $2,000 is how they make money, but think of it like that. So you need to take into account the purchase price, the tax, the buyer's premium, and then any additional duties and import fees. So that way you can subtract all those numbers out of the total cost, and then you'll be left with how much you can actually afford to bid on a bag. So then you need to do this for all of the different bags that you are interested in, because some of them you might be willing to pay more or less total for the bag. So for one, you might be willing to spend $10,000, but one you might be willing to spend, $8,000. So it would change the bid amount. And you're going to do all of this so that way you go into an auction with your number 1 bag, but also 1 or 2 backups, your number 2, your number 3, and you will know how much you are willing to spend ahead of time. So that way you don't get caught up in the moment. You won't get confused. You won't get just swept away in terms of the excitement of bidding. Because if you do that, you could accidentally end up spending way more than you originally planned. And then what was supposed to be either a great bargain buy or something that you've really wanted for a long time, you might end up regretting the purchase later on down the road because you ended up spending more than you originally planned. And the thing about auctions is that all sales are final, honey. So if you put a bid in, you need to be prepared to pay for it. Like there is no take backsies. You have to buy the item if you bid on it and if you are the winning bidder. So also keep that in mind when you've got your number 1, 2, and 3 bags. Don't bid on all 3 at once, right? Just bid on one at a time until you get outbid and then move on to the next. But the reason why it's so important to have a game plan is because unless you are a rookie and you like wasting money, don't be bidding, days and days ahead of time. Because since a lot of these auctions are digital now, they're not just open for like 30 minutes or a few hours. They are open for often over a week, 10 days at a time, so that way everyone can put their bids in. And that's because these auction houses know that, auctions are now a global affair. They've got people from all over the world that are bidding on them, so they want to give them enough time in order to get their bids in. But smart folks know the majority of the serious bidding happens in the last few minutes of an auction. So I would say the last 30 minutes, 20, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, that's where you're really gonna put in your serious bids, because otherwise you're just gonna needlessly drive up the price of something. And if no one else is gonna be doing that, you don't wanna be the person to do it either. Also, if you are bidding earlier, you're giving more clues to other people who may or may not be interested in the bag that they're gonna have competition. So if they're really rich, they might just go ahead and outbid you. So you don't wanna do that either. You just wanna wait till the end and you wanna submit your bids at the last few minutes before the auction closes. Now, I know that feels risky and I know it's scary, but the important thing with auctions to know is that nothing is guaranteed, and so you have to be willing to walk away. You have to be willing to walk away without a bag. Unless you're loaded, in which case, get it, spend whatever you need to spend. But a lot of us, we don't have unlimited funds. So you just have to be willing to go into an auction and know this is what you'd like to get, this is what you're willing to spend, this is what you will bid. But if it goes beyond your means, let it go. Try the next one. No big deal. I know I make it sound so lighthearted because I know we're spending $10,000, $15,000 on a bag, but it's just important to know that auctions are not like buying on a pre-loved site where you will get that item. An auction is you may or may not get it. We'll see how it goes. But that's also what kind of makes it fun and thrilling. And for those of you who are like me and love the thrill of getting a bargain, auctions could be a lot of fun for you. So I definitely recommend that auctions are something you should look into. Now, I know that this was a lot, and this is not a typical video that you get from me or on YouTube. So I'm sure that you all are gonna have a lot of questions, a lot of opinions to share. A lot of you all might think I'm crazy for even considering auctions, but I would really love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think that auctions are something that you might try? Or for any of you that have bought not just an Hermes bag, but maybe a Chanel or a Dior bag from an auction, please share your experience down in the comments below. I know a lot of us would love to hear about it, so that way we can learn from you and hopefully become some little auction masters ourselves. Now, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it taught you something new and another way that you could score one of the Hermes bags of your dreams. So if you found it informative, or if you got a good little laugh out of it, I would really love it if you could just like this video. Just give it a little thumbs up down in the corner below. And also, if you haven't already, what are you doing? Subscribe to my channel so that way you can get all my latest content about all things shopping, including Hermes, delivered straight to you. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Lily and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye everyone.